Plato said that when you go to Kemet school, you became more alert. You more wake up, your spirit wake up. And you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. We must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Netcher.
ATM Hotep, welcome and peace. It's a quick late build, Kemet and Chill. Kemet and Chill late build. I think that rhymes a bit. I'm gonna declare myself a rapper since anybody can be anything online. So I'm gonna call myself a rapper now that I just spit a 16th of a bar. Kemet and Chill late build. Y'all see what I did there? You see that? That rhymes. Somebody hooked me up with a beat. And I'm going to write some more lyrics. I'm going to start off with Kemet and Chill, late build. Yes, indeed. Now let me stop. But peace to anyone who's tuned in. It's Sunday night. Well, actually, technically it's Monday here on the East Coast. But just want to have a quick build. And I'm just going to jump straight in to a quick build session, quick discussion, and y'all let me know if you all want to hop on the panel, because usually when I share the panel link, nobody really comes on, especially late at night. I don't know, people in watching from being in bed or whatever the case is. But anyway, the reason why I'm going live right now is just to have a quick discussion, because pretty much throughout the day today I was either emailed or inboxed, questions or a few comments that people had about the most recent discussions on. Actually, it's an ongoing part of ongoing discussions about the racial makeup of the ancient Egyptians, whether they're black or not. So anytime a conversation comes up with black and ancient Egypt in the same conversation, that's what is contained in. Like the overarching discussion is really people simply want to continue to talk about whether or not the ancient Egyptians were black. All right, and so anyway, a few people had contacted me today, and they were confused and they wanted clarification on what I'm saying. They thought they understood what I was saying, but then listening to the conversation, they felt that we were in agreement but the way that the conversation went and how in the manner that the conversation was going was as if we were disagreeing. And so, I definitely don't like confusion and or leave anybody confused, and I definitely don't like to be misrepresented in terms of any stance or arguments or comments that I make. I don't expect anybody to quote me verbatim or anything like that, but I definitely don't want my points to be misconstrued and then propped up and attacked as if somebody's arguing against something that I actually did not say or don't mean, or whatever the case is. All right. And that's by definition a straw man logical fallacy when people do that. The misconstruing, what a straw man logical fallacy is, a misconstruing of an argument and then argue against that misconstrued argument in order to prevail over that, to act like they prevailed over the actual argument. All right, that's what straw man is, and that's what I definitely don't. I try to avoid being a part of that. I don't do it, but I don't like it when others do it to me. So I always try to be very clear and everything like that. But in order to do that on YouTube, you gotta slow things down. You gotta explain a lot of things because everyone should know that we don't know everybody's place in their studies. Like I'm live right now, anybody can pop up on the chat, and if I don't know you to any degree, I don't know where you are in your studies. I don't know what level. I don't know what you're familiar with. I don't know how you study or the intensity of your studies, and all of that kind of stuff. So on YouTube, it's a little difficult to measure productivity or progress unless you literally just start doing polls in the chat and stuff and be like, hey, did you get that? And, that stuff gets boring. People want drama. People want to scream, the rah-rah, and all that kind of stuff. People got to, do what they do. Even in the YouTube titles, people put titles to catch people's attention, which is, hey, that's what people do. Newspapers do it. Online articles do the same thing, But anyway, so I just want to clarify some things for those people who did contact me. I'm just doing this live now. I already straightened them out, but I'm just going live to reiterate some things that I said. And so, the first thing I want to deal with is this issue of appealing to authority. All right. And shout out to anybody who's tuned in. I appreciate anybody who's tuned in. It's late. I see Vyasa, Brother Zane, Sharp Spear. So anything y'all have to address me, I'm definitely gonna pay attention to the chat. But let me just get a few points out first, and then I'll double back. All right. So my first point or issue that I want to bring up in this video is the issue of appealing to authority. And let me see if I want to show something on my screen about appealing to authority. Now, I did a Facebook post earlier, but it was, in the evening time, but earlier than now, of course. And I reposted a video we did May of 2020. So once I can actually show that up on the screen, show that on the screen. I did a whole show on this very topic, and I'm bringing it up right now because in the conversation, let me see if I can find it. I just want to have it on the screen while I'm talking about it. So y'all give me a second. Appealing. There we go, right there. All right. All right, so I'm going to show you all this. I don't want it to play, so we'll stop it playing. All right, so now so let me just give some context to you all listening. The other day, yesterday and the day before, I got into a conversation with Smash and Mod Forever, aka Shaka and Dougal Kemet, and I when I realized what he was doing, I expressed it to him in terms of him being shocked. I mentioned that he is. I'm accusing him of appealing to authority, and based on the conversation, I don't have any indication that the brother understood what appeal to authority is. All right, because he seems to be in denial of it, and then he confused the two of distinctions that I make between appealing to authority and deferring to authority. And so I'm showing on the screen the video is from May 14th. See if I can blow this up. Y'all can see it better. So it's from May, what's the date on here? I don't even see the date. Yeah, I don't even see the date. But it's from May 14th, 2020. And you can see the videos on the screen. And it's called Appeal to Authority versus Deferring to Authority. And what's the difference? So in this video, it's only 56 minutes long. And what I do is I explain the difference. I define both of them, tell everyone what they are. And in doing so, I'm making the distinction between the two and which one is favorable and which one to avoid. So appealing to authority is something that we should all avoid, but many people don't. And deferring to authority is something that we all do, and rightfully so. So I'm showing this now because this is in our archives. And if you didn't know we did it, then go check it out if you want a breakdown on appeal to authority and deferring to authority. Now, just in a nutshell, I'm going to summarize it. Appealing to authority is you're guilty of the logical fallacy of appealing to authority when you make an argument or a claim and you go to an authority or you utilize an authority, and because of your utilization of that authority and because that person is an authority, then your claim and your argument must be right, must be true. All right, that is a classic case of appealing to authority. All right, now what people tend to do, and this is what the brother did yesterday and other people do as well, because they don't understand what appeal to authority is. Now notice what I said it is. Now you all can look it up to get the fuller breakdown of it. And I do it in the video, so I'm just trying to be brief right now. But avoiding appealing to authority does not mean that you dismiss or discredit experts and authorities in different disciplines. It doesn't mean that. What it means is that just because you can cite an expert or an authority in the field does not in and of itself make your claim true. In other words, just because you find somebody that agrees with you doesn't make your statement true. There's no intrinsic truth or automatic or intrinsic switch that whatever you say is true because you can cite or you refer to an authority. All right. That's the problem. That's what you don't want to do. Now, deferring to authority is perfectly fine. This is what we should be doing. And deferring to authority is when you are not as knowledgeable or you're not an expert in a field of study. You have to consult the experts and the authorities, and you have to defer to them with the understanding that just because you're deferring to them, that doesn't make your argument true. You're simply deferring to the authorities because of your lack of authoritativeness, or expertise. All right, so there's two totally different things. So let me give you an example that will be fitting to the circus community. Um, uh, the ancient Egyptians said that they come from the foothills of the mountain of the moon, where the god Happy dwells. It's in the papyrus of Nefer. That's my statement, right? And then, well, how do you know it's true, Joe? Well, Dr. Ben said it. And Dr. Ben is the authority on this. Dr. Ben been doing this for 20 years. Dr. Ben been doing this for 30 years and everything. Are you better than Dr. Ben? Do you know more than Dr. Ben? Do you have a degree? Do you have this? Do you have that? And so when I do that, I'm committing the logical fallacy of appealing to authority. What I am doing essentially is saying that what my claim is true because Dr. Ben says it's true. And I view Dr. Ben as the authority. So I'm appealing to authority for the truthfulness or the absolute truthfulness and accuracy of my claim. And so that's what we have to avoid. All right. So that's a difference. Then sharing the fact that Dr. Ben says that without saying that, okay, because he says it, I'm right. So if somebody does it the correct way, they would say, well, hey, Dr. Ben says in the papyrus of Nefer, Egyptians said they come from the foothills of the mountain of the moon where the god Happy dwells, or whatever the case is. Then it's like, well, then the question is, well, how do you know that what Dr. Ben said is true? The right answer to that is, well, I checked behind Dr. Ben and I've come to the same conclusion. The answer is not, well, because he said so. He's the authority. The buck stops there. And likewise with the use of the word consensus. The consensus is, and people use that as well. The consensus is. Now, scholars, like, your diehard scholars in different fields, they don't deal with that. They know that when people invoke consensus, that doesn't mean much. And here's why. Among people who actually do scholarship, people who are constantly putting pen to paper and so on, and writing and questioning previous scholarship, they understand that consensus in that sense, they know how to tease out consensus. Because here's the thing, I'm going to give an example. Matter of fact, I can take this off the screen. And yeah, I got that. Matter of fact, let me just pause for a minute. Y'all see this reconstruction of Egypt? I don't know exactly what this is a reconstruction of. I think it's the temple of Luxor, Waset, Thebes, etc. I just like this picture, so I don't know. I just put it up here. So, and as a matter of fact, let me turn this chat on, because I'm not even watching y'all chat as I'm talking. So, where was I? The consensus. Yeah, the consensus. So here's an example of consensus, because a real scholarly consensus, there's nothing wrong with that. All right, so I'm gonna make that very clear. An actual scholarly consensus is what it is. But what I find in my experience and perusing the YouTube streets is that people who are not known to be in scholarship, they mischaracterize what consensus actually is. So here's what I mean. And I'm just pulling an example out of my head, right? If a scholar, if a person does rigorous research on a topic, a research question, and they apply their whole method, they collect data, they crunch the data, and they come to their conclusions, and they publish their work, right? They have done the work. So they have investigated, They have falsified or attempted to falsify. Went through processes of elimination, chances, coincidences, and this, that. And they put some sweat and blood into their research and investigation. And then they present their work to the public to be scrutinized, right? Then another scholar comes, and this is specific work, right? Then another scholar comes who's not doing the specific work, but may need to make a reference to that first scholar's work. And so what scholars will do in that case is that they're not putting in the work to actually check behind the person, and to make sure the person did everything correctly, and see if they come to the same conclusion or whatever the case is. It may not even be their field of study, but because they need to mention it in whatever work they're doing, they may cite that author or cite that scholar and give proper appropriation or attribution to that scholar, in citations and so on and so forth, and to make a point that they're making, because that scholar seems to agree with whatever point that they're making. And then so that's two scholars now, right? And then you get a third one that does the same thing, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. And before you know it, you got 19 other scholars that are really relying on the first scholar's work. Okay? Actual work. And so people are looking at that as scholarly consensus. Now, there's a thin line there, because those 19 scholars, although they're relying on the first scholar's work and they simply parrot or repeat or regurgitate what the first scholar says in their conclusions or whatever, those 19 scholars did not actually do the work on their own to be a producer of work in that same on that same topic. So had they done that and they all came to the same conclusion, then we can rightfully say there's a scholarly consensus. Okay? Like in science, a scientific consensus is when, and now you can see it more readily in science, because science people are more aware of the scientific method of trying to falsify hypotheses and then hopefully reaching the level of theory and whatnot. And so in that entire process, scientists actually test the hypotheses, the various different hypotheses, right? They actually test it. They see if there's reproducible, see if they can reproduce it. And when they go through their several different scientists at that, when they go through the process and they all come to the same conclusion, then that is a valid scientific consensus, and we can say so. Now, outside of the hard sciences or physical sciences, when it comes to history and studying and stuff like that, and that kind of research, it needs to be held to the same standard, but it's not. And people think that just because something is mentioned by different named individuals, that there's a scholarly consensus. All right, so y'all got that? So now, here's a real example of that. Joseph Greenberg. If you all been hanging around me or this channel, you definitely probably heard the name Joseph Greenberg. Greenberg is the responsible person for the language phyla that we are used to today. Niger Congo, Nilo-Saharan languages, Afro-Asiatic languages, Indo-European languages, etc., etc. Though that terminology and the way that we discuss it is a result of Joseph Greenberg and his classification, especially with African languages on the continent of Africa. All right. Now, from the time that he did his work up until now, it's been quite a long time. I forget the year that he first published his work, and it escapes me right now. But somebody could do a quick Google search and find that out. But it's been decades right? And within that time stretch, a lot of people who are not linguists, who don't even study languages, people who do not study languages whatsoever, they will quote or cite Joseph Greenberg and use his schema of naming, of categorizing these languages. They will say Afro-Asiatic this, Nilo-Saharan that, Niger Congo this, Khoisan or Bantu this, and so on and so forth, right? Now, all those scholars that cite that work, even in the medical field, they'll even use Greenberg's, which is not linguistic orientated at all, health and medicine and stuff like that, but they'll even use it as well. Now, my point here is that over all this time, and multiple scholars, these scholars will have degrees from bachelor's, master's, PhDs, and doctor, medical doctor, this, that, and the third, and they'll use it. And people will look at that and say, there's a scholarly consensus. See, Afro-Asiatic is blah, 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 blah. Niger Congo is blah, 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 blah. Not knowing that actual linguists who do that specific work don't even agree or accept Greenberg's classification schema. Or they simply call it what it is. It's a typological grouping. It's not a genetic grouping of languages, related languages. So, for example, to group languages into a category and label it whatever, but in Greenberg's case, he labeled, let's say let's use Afro-Asiatic. The Afro-Asiatic group of languages that he grouped together and called Afro-Asiatic, him grouping those languages together like that was never done by the scientific method in which that should be done, which is called the historical comparative method. That was not done. So the Afro-Asiatic language phyla is not a legitimate or valid family of languages, related languages. All right. Now, a lot of people don't know that and won't know that. And then if there's ever a conversation about it, people will make mention that all these scholars use Afro-Asiatic. So what's the problem with me using Afro-Asiatic and this, that, and the third? And see, so here's where the distinction needs to be made, that there is no consensus on that. The actual scholar consensus is that Greenberg's language classification system is comparable to astrology. He did not, and by his own admission, he did not use the scientific historical comparative linguistic method to determine the relatedness between these various different languages, where the process is much more detailed and intense, things that you have to do. He did not do that. Now, there are actual linguists, comparative linguistic linguists that do comparative work. They're actually expressing this. They're actually letting people know that that's the case, that Greenberg did not do that, and so on and so forth. Now, so I'll just bring that up because people tend to be shocked when a person dives in on a subject and then may not agree with what they feel is a consensus. When it doesn't matter, you citing a consensus or using the word consensus does not make your argument true. You always have to demonstrate and show the work when it comes down to it. Many times we may not have to, but at those times when there's something that happens, some disagreement, you have to put in the work. And a lot of people don't have time, so they look for the easy route and say consensus. Consensus. Another example, if we're going to use consensus, because consensus is used synonymously with the word majority, right? If we're going to use consensus like that, and I'm only saying if we're going to use consensus like that, then at one point, racially identified black people were considered primitive and worthy of enslavement. That was the consensus. In even in just in the United States alone, enslaving other human beings, specifically human beings identified as black people, was the consensus. And I'm sure that anybody who was a victim of that could care less, can give a rat's behind on what the consensus was at that particular time. So we have to be careful, and I'm only using that as an example, as an extreme example, for those people who use the word consensus or the idea of consensus in a sense of majority. Just because a majority say so, it must be true. So all of these things I'm saying are borderlining on logical fallacies. You know, just because so-and-so says so, it must be true. Or just because the majority feels so, it must be true. Real scholars or researchers, and not just enthusiasts, and real scientists, that doesn't matter like that. That's not used that way. What we should be doing is seeking real consensus, people who actually put in the work and come to the same conclusions. All right, so I just want to make sure that was clear. So I'm gonna pay attention to the chat, because I feel that maybe some of y'all are asking questions and getting my attention. So peace to everybody who's tuned in. Anybody who's tuned in, I should say. Brother Reggie said something like Kemet was a deified ancestor. What do you say? Oh, a deified ancestor. I didn't hear Reggie say that. So I'm not sure. So, if he did say that, then, I didn't see him show that or anything else. I don't remember him saying that. So now if you're just asking me, is Kemet a deity? Is there a deity named Kemet? Because if you're saying Kemet was a deified ancestor, like Kemet was a person that was deified, because when we say ancestor, I'm thinking a living, breathing human being who once lived and then died, and they're being deified. Like, for example, in the sense of Ahmose Nefertari. Ahmose Nefertari is a deified ancestor. She was elevated and placed as the mistress, the prime generative force in the necropolis. That's why you see her so many times in other people's tombs other than her own, and she's painted black to represent all of that, all the symbolisms regarding black and the funerary and necropolis issues. If that's what you mean, like an ancestor named Kemet, and then they were deified, I don't know. I didn't hear him say that. I didn't hear him say that for that. Now, if you're in other words, if you're asking me if there's a deity named Kemet and whatnot, as far as I remember, I believe there is a deity close to that or like that. And it wouldn't surprise me, because there's a deity called Remy, which means tears. And it's like we say it's called that, but some people will say it's another epithet of Ra. And where the Remich get their name, they play around with that word to associate their name with that. How it says the ancient Egyptians comes from the tears of Ra. And there's an actual deity named Remy or Remu. Okay, so that wouldn't surprise me at all. All right, so I don't know if I answered your question, though. But Let me see. I'm trying to keep it going. Hotel room. I saw the video. Did not see any primary sources. Disappointing. I saw the video. What video? Hati Mod, if you could clarify what video it is you're speaking about, I would appreciate that. What else is there? Everyone has their own journey, but being able to ask an authority about a certain topic in your journey is cool. Yeah, absolutely. That's deferring to authority. We all have to do it. Like we are not know-it-alls. No one should be walking around feeling like they know everything. And because we don't know everything, and we're not experts in everything, our life is limited. We got to take care of ourselves. We got families to feed and this and that. So we don't. Most people don't have the time to gain expertise in a long list of things. So we defer to authorities all the time. Every time you go to an auto mechanic, you're deferring to authority. I mean, to give you just a little off the dome type example, if you don't know much about your car, you're gonna go to an expert to get your car checked out. Why? Because the auto mechanic has more expertise than you, so you're gonna defer to that person. Just that simple, So that's normal. And I'm encouraging people to actually study what logical fallacies are. And I take it for granted that people understand them, because I've dealt with them for a long time, ever since college. I've dealt with logical fallacies since 1990, 89. I had to memorize all the logical fallacies. I had to defend against them, and I had to commit them to become very, very familiar with them, and how to defend against them, and how to avoid them. And because that's I did that so long ago, and it's like always used. I take it for granted that there's other people that may not be familiar with that or with them. So that's something that I have learned to understand, that a lot of people don't know what logical fallacies are. But now it's really no excuse. You can Google them. They have whole websites that list them all and give you examples of them and everything like that. And I think that's what I show in the video. All right, so let me keep going. I'm trying to see if there's any questions. There's crazy high mountain ranges in Africa. Some stop rain clouds. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've seen pictures. Breathing exercises and heavy concentration is important. Way up there. Oh, yeah. LA, Oklahoma. That is Damo is in the house. All right, Donnie. What's the difference in use between source and appealing to make a point or prove something? So again, the fallacy or the violation comes in is see again. Let me make it clear. Citing sources is perfectly fine. Everybody does it. Quoting someone, talking to an expert on the phone, recording an expert, and using that, whatever, all that stuff is gravy. It's all good. It's all good. The fallacy, the logical fallacy comes in is when you do that, and because you do that, and because that authority says what they say, therefore what you're arguing must be true. That is the logical fallacy, because an expert can be 100% wrong, and many are. Of course, the ratio of them being right versus wrong, because they've gone through training and they've become an expert, it should be diminished. The ratio should be them being correct way more than they're ever wrong, but the fact that they can be wrong. But here's the catch. Well, not even the catch, but here's the interesting part. You won't know that they're wrong or right unless you do the work yourself. Now, most of us don't need to do that because it's on issues that don't require reassessment, reanalysis, and stuff like that. But when that time comes, you gotta be prepared to do the work. You have to be prepared to do the work. Because if I make a statement and then I cite an author, I cite a source, how do I know that source is right? Just because I feel a way or I have an opinion and I Google and I find anybody with a PhD that agrees with me, does that make me right? Does that make the issue right? Does that make my claim accurate and correct? No, that by itself doesn't do that. But I wouldn't even know that. Like, especially on the topic of ancient Egypt in these YouTube streets, a lot of people that talk about Egypt don't know enough about Egypt to know if what I'm saying is right or wrong. Or anybody. If I say, for example, if I say the ancient Egyptians named themselves after the tears of a god, and I make that statement and whatnot, and I say, yeah, because the word remi is to tear up, to tear, the verb from remu, which is tears itself, the actual, that which it comes from the eye, which is the tears itself, and then that forms man, and that's where you get the word remich from, meaning people, the people. And I even show the glyphs and whatnot. A lot of people are not gonna know if I'm right or wrong, because why? Because they don't know how to read the glyphs. They don't study enough to know it. So they have to take me for my word. Or they're gonna go check Google and do a search and see if there's another author or somebody else that agrees or says something that I say. And that's their form of research. Do y'all see the problem with that? Or the problem the potential problem that can cause? Because I'm gonna tell you this. I can make a claim right now that aliens built the pyramids. That the Egyptians were not able to do it. They didn't have the technology to do it. They didn't have the know-how to do it, or whatever the case is. Those stones weigh too much. It's too precise. There's no way the ancient Egyptians did it. Aliens did it. Aliens did that. Then, if somebody were to Google that, you're going to find a whole bunch of websites that agree with me that aliens did that. So just because you find other people that agree with me, does that make it right? Does that make it true and a reality? And the answer is no. So real scholarship is rough, man. It's work. It's hard work. It's hard work, and I want everybody to understand that. Don't take it for granted. YouTube has lowered the standards of scholarship. We use that word too loosely. Scholarship, scholarly has the word school, scholar, school. Follow the rules of school. If people don't want to follow the rules of school, then stop calling it scholarship. Call it YouTube ship. Let's create a new word, YouTube ship. I'm gonna start using that too. Let's do some YouTube ship. Cause see, people think that when I say what I'm saying, they say, well, we might as well just go to academia.edu or researchgate.edu or .org or whatever, and all, so we might as well just dump our heads into the journals and stuff like that. Yeah. That's part of it. We can have discussions too, but that's what it takes. So I'm gonna start using that word, YouTube ship. I don't know if anybody ever used that word. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm the first one to use it, but I'm gonna use it. So I'm giving y'all the heads up. I'm gonna use that YouTube ship. I'm gonna make a distinction between scholarship and YouTube ship. Anyway, I'm trying to go down the list, y'all. Just like peer review is not always a great way to gather the greatest information. I'm glad you brought that up. Get that work, TV. That's a very good point to discuss, because people you toss that around too. Is your work peer reviewed? Peer reviewed. Is it peer reviewed? Peer review work, and I think a lot of people misconstrue that as well. What is peer reviewed? And so on. And then something being peer reviewed does not guarantee accuracy either. Okay? Especially if you don't know the details of that peer reviewed process for any specific work given. But now the idea of peer review, matter of fact, there are videos on YouTube that criticize the peer review process. People don't usually cite those, but the general idea behind peer review is that if you are investigating a specific research question and you elevate yourself to time and dedication into this research question, and you gain an expertise in it, and you want to share your work and publish it and share it with the public, then the idea is that you want people that are equally qualified in the work that you're doing to check out your work. But now here's the challenge. Are those people doing the work that you did to see if they came to the same conclusion, or are they simply reading your work and not really checking behind the things that you're doing, and then they sign off on it and say, hey, okay. And you do have some of that going on, but like I said, there's videos that criticize the peer review process. There's a lot of looseness and gray areas in the peer review process, but the idea is noble, because that's what you want to do. You want people who are just as proficient in something to check out your work and pick it apart. All right, so you do want that. You do want the peer review process, a real peer review process, to take place. You do want to engage in that, and that just helps the quality of your work by letting other eyes get on it and really pick it apart. Okay, but the question is, do peer reviewers, do they really do that? And there's been criticism on that process depending on who you go to, what field of work you're doing, and stuff like that. So I would suggest people to look into that, but don't just use the term peer review as if that's the end all be all. All right, don't do that. And usually, this is something else that people are unaware of. Usually, the peer review, the better part of peer review process is after you publish. There's a pre-publishing peer review, and then there's a post-published peer review process. And from the post peer review process is where you get the most generally you get your most constructive criticism and things like that. And for that reason, authors who do that, they will put out a second edition, a third edition. Once the work is published and then it's critiqued in the public, and it goes through way more hands and stuff like that, it has time to saturate the public, it has time to be used, cited, and this, that, and the third, and other people get wind of it and everything like that. So before you know it, you may see some constructive criticisms thrown your way, and you take that criticism, and then you readjust your work, and you may have to put out a second edition of your work, or a new publication with some adjustments. And I've seen that. We see it all the time. I've seen that being done. I've seen authors who will publish something And then in their second publication, it's under a different name, as far as a title. They will refer back to their first publication and then talk about the mistakes that was the valid mistakes that was pointed out by other people. Now, so if the peer review process really worked, that shouldn't happen, because this is post publications. You see, and so we got to keep all that in mind. It's common sense, but we just got to keep that in mind. Let me see anything else. I'm going down the list. I'm trying to keep up. Color, ship topic, enjoying Haribo gum bears after a good smoke. All right, he's just tripping over there. Greenberg, the languages of Africa, shortly after arriving at Stanford. Yeah, 1962. Okay. Oh, in 1962, he chaired University Anthropology Department in 1971 and Committee of African Studies from 1964 to 81. Okay. I guess Damo was helping me out with the date in terms of Greenberg. Greenberg. All right. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Let's see. I use all of those language family classifications. Yeah, it's not a problem to use it. You just got to know what it is. So you can't say Afroasiatic and then pretend that it's a valid language family. Just understand that that classification is a typological grouping based on mass comparisons and stuff like that, which is not a valid method to determine relationships. So, Metro customer, I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna give you an example. For instance, um, now language is not a physical thing, right? But linguistics and language uses the nomenclature and terminology that comes from biology, pretty much. Okay, because you got the word morphology. That's a biological term where organisms will change. You know, you have relatedness of languages, but that's in genetics, biogenetics, biological genetics, where you could determine who's the parent of who's the sibling of who's the aunt and uncle. Now, check this out. Imagine somebody making a claim and grouping 8 individuals. So here I am, my name is Joseph Greenberg, right? I take 8 individual people, and because they all have the same Nike shoes on, and they have the same brand shirt, they may vary in different colors, but they have the same brand shirt, all right, and the same shoes on. I take these 8 individuals and group them together and say they're a family. Oh, excuse me, saying they're related. Now, where's the mistake there? The mistake is not in the fact that they're related. You just got to understand what I mean, or what qualifies the relationship. They're not genetically related, but they're related only in the sense that I see they got the same shoes on, and they got the same brand of shirts on, and that's how I grouped them together. Now, you therefore can't come along after me and then use my grouping as if they're genetically related, and then start arguing and presenting and quoting and stuff like that as if they're genetically related. So that's the example of what people do with Greenberg. They think that his language family classifications is based on the linguistic genetic relationships, but they're not. They're typological, which means that it wasn't done through the equivalent of what genetics would be in language, which is sound meaning correspondences, establishing the sound laws, establishing each on a morphemic level or morphological level of these relatedness between languages, the comparison of 2 or more languages being inherited from a common ancestor, the whole 9, going through all that rigorous work. No different then in order to determine biological relationships, what do you have to do? You have to sequence the DNA. You have to do a genome level sequencing of these 8 individuals to determine their genetic relationship. Not looking at their clothes or their shoes. You see what I'm saying? That's what people are doing with languages. They're not looking at the DNA of the language to determine these relationships. They're looking at surface things. Oh, it's a triconsonantal cluster. Well, this language has triconsonantal clusters too. Well, this language has, feminine gender. That language has a feminine gender. Oh, this one has, singular, dual, and plural, and a single, plural, and dual. This language has the same, So they're like, oh, they go together then. No, that's not how it's done. All right, so anyway, I'm gonna move on from there. Let's see, keep it moving. Hey, peace everybody. I'm giving a shout out to everybody who's hanging out with me for a bit. Just hanging. Metro customer. Oh wait a minute, Donnie said what? He says no. Oh, Sean says no conclusion, huh? On what? Sean? No conclusion on what? We got Donnie. He says no, but I forgot that quick what Donnie was saying. What is he saying no to? So Donnie, help me out here. It's late, man. Forgive me. I don't know if you're talking to me. He said no, but okay. Metro customer. Do all of these side conversations take away from the true teachings? Yes. Yes. I will say that in a heartbeat. Yes, it does. The PhD should give you more trust in the info, though, should it not? Yes, but here's the catch. You have to find a sweet spot. We should be able to put a degree of trust in experts and still be fine. But whenever there is a question that comes up, you have to be prepared to do some work. That's it in a nutshell. In a perfect world, we should be able to comfortably trust experts, because the ratio of them being right versus them being wrong should be great enough where we can trust the experts. But when it comes to certain issues, it's a case by case thing. Depends on the value of that issue. Depends on the value of that issue. All right. Like for example, I'm gonna give you a real life example. If you are in your house and you and whoever's in your house have to, y'all leaving the house, and prior to you leaving, you just cooked, or somebody just cooked in the house, right? Somebody just had something in the oven, they cooked something on the stove, and et cetera, right? But then y'all have to leave out the house. So as you're leaving out the house and as you're pulling off in your car, you're thinking, wait a minute. Did y'all, you asking everybody in the car, you saying, did y'all turn the stove off? Did y'all turn the oven off? And you're not sure. And so the confidence level, because if somebody forgot to turn it off, your house is going to burn down. So that's important to you. So what people tend to do is we call it double check. Well, let me back up and double check. Let me pull back in the parking lot, or let me pull back in the driveway, and let me go in there and double check. You see, because your house burning down or not really, really, really matters to you. So on that, you're gonna double check. So I only bring that issue, that example up, is because it's a case by case thing. It depends on how important something is to you, whether or not the degree of trust you're gonna put into other people, be they experts or not. Okay, so there you have it. And I'm just going down. When we truly begin to teach classes to young children so they when will we truly begin to teach classes to young children so they may improve on the elders' work? Why do we continue to live in this village without involving the youth? Guardians of the Galaxy. That's a good question, and I'm with you on that. That's why the work I'm doing behind the scenes, and hopefully, to latch on to other people, that we could bring it in front of the scenes, is an educational environment where we can do just that. Include, anybody who's, ready, willing, and competent enough to want to learn something or want to learn these things, and not only learn it, but then start to take it to the next level and filtering out application. We have to apply this stuff. We can't apply it just for YouTube and to argue and to feed this adversarial environment. I'm not built. I'm not. I would. I'm not. I'm not doing that for that. For this. I'm not doing this for that. Not me. Other people may be, but I'm not doing that. Hotep get. Oh, which group? Okay, that's a conversation. Mound of the Moon in the literal. That's as close as we could get back then. Not sure. Not spiritual saying. Okay. Mount of the Moon. Well, Ramza, the point with that, real quick, is that it's not in the Papyrus of Nefer. It doesn't say anything like that in there, and that was the claim. Depends on the quality of peer review. Yep, quality over quantity, brother, or quality over quality. Excuse me, quality over quantity. Y'all could tell it's getting late. I'm up here reversing the stuff. Could you be unbiased in peer review within your circle? Woo. That's the goal. To be as objective as possible. And we gotta understand it's different peer review processes depending on the discipline. Remember, I gave the example of physics and science. That peer review is more straightforward, because if me as a scientist, I can't duplicate your experiment and your results and whatnot, then we got a problem. In medicine, if I can't, if you don't do a double-blind placebo controlled trial study and you control for X, Y, and Z, then we got a problem. You see what I'm saying? So it depends. It's harder when it comes to history and more sub anthropological fields where there is room for subjectivity and stuff like that. So it's a little different. But you're right. It should be unbiased. It should be unbiased. But now check this out though. I don't care how biased you are. It depends on the. So let me give you an example of why I say it depends on the field. Because in certain fields, you could be as biased as you want to be. That won't affect anything. So, for example, in mathematics, if I come to a mathematical conclusion based on a problem that I solved, and then I show you the work all the way from A to Z through the problem and how I came to my conclusion, you could hate, be biased, whatever, all you want to. When you do that work, the same work I did, you're gonna come to the same conclusion I did. And if you don't, then I would have to address it, or we would have to dialogue and see, okay, what did you do exactly? We would work with that. So certain things will kind of eliminate, whether a person is biased or not and stuff like that. But there's politics in peer review process too now. So don't forget that. Don't forget that. Like I said, depends on the area of study, discipline. The no vowels and spells. Obviously, it doesn't mean there are no vowels in every speech. Man, I don't know if y'all are having their own conversation or you. So Ramza, if you're addressing this to me, put put the name of the channel at the Seshu. Put at the @ Seshu so I can tell that you're addressing me. But in case you are with that, you're right. There is no speech without vowels. When people say a certain language doesn't have vowels, they don't mean the spoken word, the speech, or the spoken language. They're talking about the written, but they don't specify written. They just say language. I see Emmy Cat is in the chat holding it down. Um, oh, he said I was agreeing. Thanks for answering my question. Oh, okay. Boy, but this must be late because I don't forgot what your question was. I'm sorry, Donnie. Let's see. Okay, Rams. Asar made a great point about PhD degrees in a very narrow field in a very broad particular subject. That's true, and I'm glad you brought that up. So let me just speak to that for a hot second. Um, when people seek their PhD, their doctorate in a subject, it is a narrow undertaking, and so, like for example, anthropology, and then we got to get familiar with these fields, these whether it's scientific field, hard science, or soft science, whatever the case is. We have to understand what they are, and so you have anthropology, which is a large umbrella thing. Then you got subfields of subfields of subfields. Like in linguistics, there's subfields of linguistics. There's subfields of biology and so on and so forth. So when people get these degrees, they usually sign up for a degree program, and the degree program outlines its intent and its study. When you defend your thesis and dissertation or whatever the case is, you're you're going through a narrow study of something, and that's great. But what we tend to do in YouTube ship, people think that people having a PhD in one thing, because it's attached to an umbrella term, that they're an expert or a PhD in all of that, and that's not the case. But you still give credit to a person with a PhD because at least they have gone through the they have gone through the learning process of how to research, how to do this and stuff like that. So we would still respect the things that they and say and stuff like that. But again, it doesn't mean that they are uh, correct by default on things, even in their own field. Well, you're a patient teacher, and that's a perfect for the youth. Okay, appreciate that. Room for debate. Ancient Greek sources are a good example of blind trust. Like the Greeks didn't lie or get tons of things wrong. Yeah, that's true. Um, just to that point, real quick. Um, there's propaganda that goes on in pretty much every culture. Every group of people that have that self-identify, that you have this consciousness of an identity as a group, they're gonna put themselves above everybody else. You know. All right, so let me keep going here. Sean says the rules of critical thinking won't accept us relying on someone else's conclusions. What's your conclusion? See, I don't know, Sean. If you, he said proper research methodology and critical thinking. Yep, I definitely agree with you there. Without method, without correct method, man, your whole thing will fall. Yep. Oh, Sean's making statements. Yeah, I agree with that. How you are interpreting data is critical. Yes, very, very critical. Very, very critical. Um, not mentioning any names, but when a certain person claims their paper is peer reviewed, is that claim dismissed because the peers are not from the mainstream? Um, no, mainstream and non-mainstream, it's the quality, it's the expertise. It's the expertise. Because think about it. Before anybody becomes mainstream, they're not mainstream. Like everybody who we would consider mainstream at one point was not mainstream. So how do all these people become mainstream? Where's the dividing line? You know what I'm saying? So it's not whether a person is classified as mainstream or not, who does peer review or et cetera, et cetera. It's the quality and the competency within a certain field or what have you, and the ability to show improve the work, show improve the work. I'm gonna give you another for instance in sports. We have mainstream basketball. We don't call it mainstream though. We call it the NBA, the National Basketball Association. I think that's crazy. I gotta question myself on that. But anyway, NBA, the NBA. We got the Lakers, Golden State Warriors, and all the basketball teams, right? Professional basketball. That is mainstream basketball. But, and we see them a lot, but there's some dudes on the street that play at the local basketball court with the beat up rims and having no net, no chain net, no nothing, just a rim around it. Man, they'll cross you up in a minute. They'll dunk on you in a minute. They'll shoot threes from half court in a minute. So they're good. They have skill, but they're not mainstream. You see? So in the scholarly world, we have the same thing that goes on. You got people who are skilled and who got time to put in some work and do whatever. You know, that can happen. So we don't need to we don't need to do the mainstream or not mainstream. I mean, it's it's obviously helpful if mainstream is involved, of course, but that's not that's not a deal breaker. Shouldn't be a deal breaker. Let's see, anything else going on? Donnie says, oh, he's talking to room debate. The Greeks said that Egyptians had gold finding ants. Let's see. Well, the charge is it's just a bunch of fringe guys outside the mainstream just slapping each other on the back. Yeah. But see, we can expect people to say that because they're not a part of the work. And unfortunately, that's what happens. All right, that's what happens. And see, that's part of YouTube ship. That's on YouTube streets. That's what that happens. Ryder said that, and his peers basically dissed him and said he was full of crap or full of it. All right. So I'm at the bottom of the chat now. So that is my cue to share something else with you all. I shared this last night, but I'm gonna share this again. I'm gonna use it again, but to make a different point. And let me quickly find it. Okay, right here. All right. Now, if you missed out last night, then you missed out. All right. Now, I'm not gonna go over this whole thing because I actually built this last night. I mean, I typed this while live last night, showing examples of names and to do a grammatical analysis of these names in determining the type of structure that we're dealing with. So, in this first name is considered a simple name, but if I were to further break this down, this would be a genitive construction. We have Sarah, Pepe, and by genitive construction, that's when To be more specific, it's a direct genitive construction where you have two words that are juxtaposed next to each other, showing ownership. That's what the word genitive means, possession. So it's the son, the word sa is son, belonging to or of Ra. Or we can say it in English two different ways. We could say it like how you see it, the son of Ra Pepi, or we could say Ra Pepi's son with an apostrophe S. So in English, the apostrophe S is our genitive marker in the English languages that shows possession. Wujau's book. That's my name with apostrophe S, book. Wujau's book. Or I could say the book of Wujau, or the book belonging to Wujau. All right, I'm conveying the same thing. Next group is participles, where you have verbs that function as adjectives. That's the short nitty gritty way of explaining that, what participles are. That's those three names. Then you have nonverbal sentences, where there's no verbs in those sentences, but those are actually sentences. That's that group. Then you have adjectival sentences, two of those, no verb. Then you actually have a verbal sentence. But now, the point I want to make tonight is a spinoff of the earlier conversation I had on Garfield's show earlier today. Yeah. No, I think it was even later on Pseudo Killers. I'm telling you, it's late, y'all. I'm time is getting blurry. But so let's take this name right here at the bottom, Keper Kara. Okay. Now let me do this because I need some room. So let me now I can't even get my arrow. All right, there we go. So I know what. There we go. So let me bring this over to a fresh whiteboard, because I want to explain something here. I'm gonna use this example to talk about something. So we're gonna take this example here, a verbal sentence, Keper Ka Ra. Now, here's the point, and then I'll demonstrate it. When it comes to names, right? Names have meaning. Most names have meaning. I'm not gonna say all names. Most names have meaning, the word itself. But what's interesting about names is there's another layer that's attached to names by its very nature. So what do I mean by that? So let's say, and I used this example last night. Let's say there's a young lady named Mercedes, and you all may know a person named Mercedes for real. But let's say there's a lady named Mercedes. All right. Now, the word Mercedes itself has a meaning to the Germans. I believe it's a German word. So it means something in German. But when you call on the young lady as Mercedes, you're not using it for its meaning. You're using it as a word to invoke the person's identity, or to represent that person. And if you call out their name, they should answer, and vice versa. Say, hey, Mercedes. Hey, what's up? But you're not concerned about what the word means, and you're not using it for what the word means. Now, in modern society, that's everywhere. Names have lost their meaningfulness, in terms of how it's used. Okay, so for that reason, that's what's going on. Now, when it comes to ancient Egyptian names specifically, most scholars tend to leave names untranslated. So you'll see a name Ramesses, and it'll be written Ramses. And then if you say Ramses, it becomes a word that refers to someone. All right. So the concept is this person in your mind, but you're using the form of Ramses, whether you write it or you say it. But nobody's going to say Ra gives birth to him, or Ra, it is Ra who bore him. You're not going to say that every time in English. You're not going to translate the name, but that's what the name means. Okay. Now, the reason why scholars tend to leave names untranslated is because of a few reasons. I'm gonna give you some. One is that names are very, very short entities, syntactically and in context. So names are heavily abbreviated, and in the writing system, names have a lot of omitted things in the writing system. If there's supposed to be a quail chick representing a morpheme or the W, it may be omitted many times. And so on and so forth. So that's one. Two, the grammar, because of the omission, the grammar is difficult to analyze in many instances. Three, because names float around outside of context. See, if I were to write a paragraph of text right now, every single word in my paragraph has an environment where you can ascertain meaning from. It's called context, right? But names sit out there on an island by themselves. In fact, two of the king's names is protected from the outside world in what's called a Shinu or cartouche. So they're isolated even more visually. But the point here is that names float around without context. So if you weren't there, or if you are unfamiliar with the context in which the name was formulated, then that makes it difficult as well to ascertain, what was originally meant, and et cetera, right? Okay, so for those three reasons and more, that scholars tend to leave names untranslated, leave them alone. But now here's what's interesting. This is what I'm getting to. I'm taking this verbal sentence right here. This name, Keper Kara, is a verbal sentence. The verb comes first, Keper, which means to evolve, to come into existence, to manifest, to create, all those different things, right? Then you have Kara. So now check this out. His name is written in this way, Keper Kare. People usually change the A to an E, Keper Kare or Keper Kara. But when it comes to translating the name, this is what you'll see scholars do. They'll say the Ka of Ra comes into being. But I want y'all to notice something. Ka and Ra are left untranslated. But Keper is translated. So it says come into being. But they do not translate Ka and Ra. For meaning, that is. Okay? So it's the Ka of Ra comes into being. Now here's something. So I hope y'all got that, right? But here's something that's very, very interesting that happens. Okay? So let's say, let me just bring this down. Let's say, let me think of a word. What's a word? Give me 1 second. Let me just pull a word out of a random word. Let me just pick any word. Let's see. Let me pick any word. Okay. Ineb. Uh, Kim. Oops, where did that come from? Oh, that was from earlier. Ineb Kim. So let's say this is a person's name, and let me do it in the same style I did it with the one above. Um, and we're gonna spell it Ineb Kim. Ineb Kim. Now, so here's what's interesting. This is what happens, right? This is what people will tend to do. If we leave, this is what people tend to do. They will say, or in this instance, they will say, because this is a person's name, that they will leave Ineb untranslated. So this will carry over, right? So let me do that. So this will come over in the translation as is Ineb. So they'll leave that untranslated, but then they'll translate the Kim. Along these lines. Either that, this is based on my conversation I had earlier, or just simply the black. And usually they put a comma in there. Ineb the black. Or Ineb the black man. Because this name is the name of a man. Okay? Now, I can't see the chat, but do you all see anything peculiar with this? Let me see if y'all are up on your critical thinking. What you got? Let's see what you got. Do you have critical thinking tonight? I know it's late. I know it's late. And I know there's a delay, but I'm trying to see what y'all see. Now listen, we got 28 people watching. I only see 9 thumbs up. So I'm not one to beg for people to support the channel and stuff like that. But sometimes people have to be reminded that there is a feature to thumb it up or to like the channel. So I'm doing that right now. So if you appreciate the channel and all the good stuff, make sure you thumb it up. If you don't appreciate it, thumb it up anyway. Send me a message. Tell me why you don't appreciate it. Tell me why you don't like it, or whatever. It's all good. But I'm trying to see what you all are saying about this. So let me ask my question again, just in case you all forgot. Let's say there's a man named Ineb Kim, right? And that's how you transliterate it right here. That's how we spell it out all the way out. And this is how it is being commonly translated, where we leave Ineb untranslated, and then we translate the Kim to mean the black or the black man. All right. Now, in this instance, the implication is that Kim is qualifying the man that is the beholder of the name. So the implication and the assumption will immediately be that the man is black, is being called black. Hence the black, Ineb the black. So it's Ineb is the man, and he's being described as the black man. Now here is something that everyone needs to consider, or see the handicap in doing this. Now, the word Ineb means, let me show you all the meaning of Ineb. So let's say we go ahead and translate the word Ineb, because if I didn't tell you that this is a person's name, if you were to analyze this grammatically, you would not leave Eneb untranslated and only translate Kim. But because you have foreknowledge that this is a name of a person, what people tend to do, and many people do this, so I'm not trying to isolate any one person or whatever the case is, this is common. People will leave parts of the name untranslated, just like up here with Ka and Ra untranslated. It's a common practice. Okay. Even on the ones I showed you before, like the word Amen has a meaning, but they leave it untranslated in the translation. It says Amen is up front. Heru actually means something, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I just want to stress that, but let's get back to this. And I see that somebody jumped on the panel, I think. Let me, okay, that is Emicat. Oh, I got to show this bigger now. All right, so let me make this point here. So now, if we were to translate everything as we should practice doing, it should be the standard. The word Eneb, or Eneb, actually means wall. And Kim means black. Now, if we were to analyze it, or if we were to do it now, knowing that Eneb means wall, we would be more inclined to translate this. Let me pull this down. Actually, let me just do this twice so that people can get this. 'Cause I like to make sure nobody is left confused. So this is method one. Let me put that there. Method number one, commonly done. All right, see, I did another rhyme there. Method one, commonly done. Boy, see, I'm telling you, I'm going to declare myself a rapper, y'all. I'm telling you. I'm going to declare myself a rapper, boy. Watch. I'm going to get signed. I'm going to get signed, boy. Anyway, this is method one, which is commonly done. All right. The second one, I'm going to call it method two. I'm going to call it method two. And I don't need to put commonly done. This is method two. Method two would translate everything and analyze it grammatically. So now, Eneb Kim, it becomes, let me pull this down and put the thing. Now it becomes the black wall. So it's a person that's named the black wall. See, you see the difference? If you know that this is a person's name, and you know the meaning of their name is the black wall, you're going to be less inclined to think that the word black is describing the man rather than the wall, and he's simply named after the black wall and not trying to describe the man as being black in any shape or form. Do y'all see the difference? I hope I'm clear on that. So in this one, Eneb the black, or Eneb the black man, our minds are going to lean towards, hey, that's a black man, okay. Black African power, Ungawa, right? But in this rendering, in method two, when we translate everything, and Kim being an adjective, an attributive adjective to be precise, it is qualifying. It's a qualifying adjective used attributively. It is modifying the substantive before it. Eneb is a substantive, aka noun. Like a lot of people use noun. We don't. But Eneb is a substantive that's being qualified by the adjective Kim. So it's black wall. All right. And so you're not going to be inclined to put the black man. You're going to say the black wall because that's actually what it says. Even though it's the name of a person. So the referent is a human being, but the meaning is the black wall. Do y'all understand the difference? I hope so, because I'm not gonna go any further than that. But hopefully that was simple enough for y'all. And with that, I'm gonna pay attention to the chat again. So
While you do that, I just wanted to say quickly that this is like basic translation, beginner 101, and this is what really, really surprised me. When it doesn't surprise me when somebody is actually in the process of translating something and doing the process of the work, but it surprised me in the fact that somebody would actually finish their work at a half translation and not really understand that, because we know that even if we don't know the translations of the names, because usually some of them are difficult, but we know that the principle, the methodology is that those people's names meant something. So when you're translating something, you're not really just going to translate something halfway, because then you without it doesn't even matter what you come up with, we already know that something is wrong with your translation, because those particular names have some kind of meanings in them. But how you showed it is very, very simple. If somebody just stopped at Ineb the black man, and you're not really translating Ineb, clearly something is still unfinished in that particular process. But then you go, when you actually translate the substantive that is being that has that particular adjective that somebody that you have proposed, then clearly you know that you're going to come up with something different, and that something will actually help you understand the what is going on in that particular text better. So I just hope people understand that particular basic principle of what is being, what you have actually demonstrated, because it can't get any simpler than that.
yeah, that's a good points. Definitely good point. And that's basically what I'm demonstrating here between method one, which is common, and method two, which is less common, where people will translate the entire thing. Okay, but I hope you all are getting watching it now, because like I said, it's late, and I know that everybody's pretty much through for the day, and I only wanted to kind of build real quick here tonight. But if you have any questions on anything that I have been saying tonight, feel free. But I do want to scroll through the comments and address a couple of things. So get that network. Excuse me. Get that work. TV says in the first example, Kepera or Kepler is comes into being. Eneb should be translated as well, and you're absolutely right. And that's what we did. So Eneb is the word for wall, and Kim is black. So the meaning of that phrase is black wall. But what people tend to do is method one, they will leave Eneb untranslated and know that it's referring to a person as a whole name, and then only translate Kim, meaning black, and say Eneb the black man or Eneb the black. Those are the two options that people would use. And I all I hope right now is that people can see the clear difference between the two methods. We're dealing with the same set of words, Eneb and Kim, in both instances, but you see how you walk away with a completely different outcome? That's my point. That's all I ask you all to be able to see. If you didn't learn anything else tonight, I hope you get that. So listen, y'all let me know if y'all got it. Just say yes, I got it. Just say got it. All right. Everybody who understands what I'm saying and follow what I just showed, just let me know you got it. Do me that favor. All right. Um get that work. Yep, definitely. Inebu Hedge, which is white wall. Now, um Ptah, the deity Ptah is also known as he who is south of his wall and things like that. In Mennefer, aka Memphis, You also see references, I believe, to white walls and things like that as well. Yep. Yes, indeed. Um, Now this is interesting, and I'm actually use this room for debate. I'm stealing this. Can he still not have the title of Mr. Black, but not actually be black? Absolutely. If you get a phone book, they don't even make phone books anymore, I don't think. But if you get a phone book, a public phone book listing, and pull up the B's in black, you're gonna see a lot of people whose last name is Black, and males and females. So you have to say Mr. or Mrs. Black or Miss Black or Dr. Black. Even White. White is a very popular last name. White. You know, but it is not trying to describe the person. But so that's a good point. That's a good interesting thing. There. Matter of fact, let me I said I'm stealing it. So let me write that down right here at the bottom. Right here at the bottom. Let me move all this up. Right here at the bottom. Mr. Black and Mrs. White. I'm just putting that down there just for reference, just for a reminder. All right, I'm stealing that. Okay, so let's keep it moving. Let's keep it going. I see we got best cam bots up in the house. All right. Oh, I see the comparisons now. Need new glasses. Okay. All right. Cool. 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 RL peace. Let's see. If Wu got signed, it'd be. Oh, I bet you be this. What? Get it to smash. Oh. Oh, to smash. Yeah. That's. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Yeah, I'm gonna spit some bars, boy. Kemet and chill. What's the deal? Kemet and chill. Let's build. Uh-oh. Say ho. That's when you run out of lyrics. That's what you do. Say ho. That's old school, boy. Throw your hands in the air, and then you just skip. You just say, scream. You don't even say the rest. Oh boy. Um. All right. Let me see. I'm trying to keep going. Yeah. So I'm just trying to make sure y'all got it. Yep. And y'all say y'all got it. So get that work. Got it. Robert Rand. Oh, he said in Hotep. Think you got it. Donnie, let's see what your nickname is. So Donnie says my nickname as a child was Boogers, but that was literally wow.
Nah, you're not boogers.
Yeah, you must have been. What's that? Bismarcky song, picking boogers. Boom, 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 boom. Y'all remember that? Picking boogers. Man, that's when hip hop, boy. I remember those days right there. Picking boogers was out. Uh, the whole Big Daddy Kane and the crew. Roxanne Shante, Big Daddy Kane. Um, what was it? Juice Crew. Man, time is flying, y'all. Anyway, listen, I think I've covered enough, man. I just wanted to kind of build on something and show you all a few things, talk about a few things. So I think oh man, before I go, listen, let me make some suggestions to you all. Um when it comes to the issues that you've been hearing me participate in as of late, the past 2 3 days, definitely what you definitely want to do is get your studies up on some scholarship dealing with Egyptian art and the use of colors in the ancient Egyptian culture. All right. So I suggest this book on the left is by Brent Berlin and Paul Kay. It's called Basic Color Terms, Their Universality and Evolution. It is this book is a heavily cited book on the topic of color perception in cultures around the world. They touch on, Egypt, of course, and things like that. And they talk about the evolution of color distinctions. It's a very good read. It's very interesting, and I suggest that you get it. So take a screenshot of that. Then in the middle, we have John Baines. Now, John Baines is famously known for his expertise in art and things like that. He has many articles and a couple of books on the subject, okay, dealing with art in ancient Egypt. All right. Perception, aspective, perspective, all of that good stuff. John Baines, remember the name. But this particular book is called Visual and Written Culture in Ancient Egypt. But he has other ones that I don't have the cover to display on the screen for you. But he has other publications and articles in journals. Okay, and one is called, let me just see if I can pull it up real quick. Let's see if I can pull it up. Give me 1 second here, y'all. Is it this one? No, what is this? Nope, not that one. I promise y'all, I have it. I have so much that I really need to take. I need to take a whole day, set aside a whole day, and just go through my hard drives and organize some of these files. You know how when you first start saving files, everything is nice and neat. You put them in folders, but then over time, you just totally negate doing that. You just end up just having a folder just full of all these different files and everything like that. But I'm trying to find. Let's see, what do I have here? Give me 1 second, y'all. Pardon for the delay. I'm trying to find this, y'all. I promise you. All right. In the meantime, it's John Baines. I was going to show you another one of his works because I have them, but I don't know why it's taking me this long to find it real quick. But let me show y'all this one then. This is another one. I can show y'all quite a few. I'm just giving suggestions to you all on if you're interested in these different topics. I mean, I might have it already open. Let's see. Okay, here's another one. Share my screen in a different way here. Where are we? Yep, right here. Okay, here's one that I recommend that you all get on this topic, only if you're interested in the topic. Only if you're interested in the topic. Oh, y'all can't see. I'm sorry. There you go. The Art in Ancient Egypt, a resource for educators. Metropolitan Museum of Art. All right, so get your hands on that. That'll give you some insight. Also, author by the name of Fisher. I have his work as well, and let me share that with you all. Give me 1 second here. Here's I just had that. Oh, did I? No, here's another one. Color in Ancient Egypt by Graciela Gestoto Singer. This is not a book, but it's a paper that is worth getting and checking out. Get my cursor over here. In here, she goes through the usages of color, and what they stand for and how they're made, but it's not very long. And you see how she cites Baines and Berlin and Kay and so on and so forth, as well. But like let's just walk through a couple of them, right? So green. So you see green here, right? Hold on, can y'all see this? Make sure y'all can see this nice and big. Okay, you can see it enough. Maybe I need to expand it. All right, there you go. Y'all can see it now, better now, right? Yeah. So green, this is what she says about green. She said this color commonly symbolizes the fertility of nature. In our dreams, therefore, it may indicate personal growth, some new development of personality. In general, in antiquity, it is a color of life, the seasonal renewal, and since verdant spring triumphs over barren winter, green symbolizes hope and immortality. Now, just as a disclaimer, her paper is not um, restricted to Egypt. Egypt, even though it says color in Egypt, she starts off with generalization, which is obviously saying today our dreams and this and the third. But just want to kind of give y'all the heads up on that. Um, but to keep going, the Chinese associated green, because this is why I said what I said, because she kind of branched out a little bit. But the Chinese associate green and black with the female yin, the passive and receiving principle. Okay, Islam venerates the color green, expecting paradise to be full of flourishing vegetation. There are several reasons for this association with the nature. First, Muhammad is reliably quoted in a hadith as saying, "Water, greenery, and a beautiful face," where three were three universally good things. Okay, some say green was Muhammad's favorite color, and that he wore a green cloak and turban. The Quran, believers in God in paradise wear fine green silk. The inhabitants of paradise will wear green garments of silk, etc. But regardless of its origins, the color green has been considered especially Islamic for centuries. I don't know. Crusaders avoided using any green in their coat of arms so that they could not possibly be mistaken for their Muslim opponents in the heat of battle. Also, El Qadir, blah, blah. Let me skip on down. Let's get to the Egypt stuff. So, here it says, I start here. Due to its connections with nature, green is also associated with regeneration, fertility, and rebirth. In some cultures, green symbolizes hope and growth, while in others it is associated with death, sickness, and the devil. So it's culturally dependent. All right. It can also describe someone who is inexperienced. That's how we use it today. Oh man, he's green. He's green behind the ears, meaning you are a beginner. You're inexperienced. He or she, you're green behind the ears. Jealous or sick. Now, in ancient Egypt, the color green or waj was produced from malachite, a natural copper ore, and then would be produced from a paste manufactured by mixing oxides of copper and iron with silica and calcium. The green was the color of vegetation, new life, and represented protection. To do green things or to do green was slang for beneficial, life producing behavior, successfully, happiness, and fortune. And you can find that, in these different sources in terms of referencing these things. So here, let's read a little more. Osiris, as lord of the underworld, was usually depicted in green skin, and Hathor was also associated with this color. The god Osiris was called the Great Green and was often portrayed with green skin. All right. Green malachite was a symbol of joy and the land of the blessed dead. Was described as the field of malachite because malachite was used to produce it. and you can see the references here and stuff. So yeah, so you get if you get this paper, check it out and trace out the references to check those out as well. In the Book of the Dead, there are two chapters for a papyrus column of green feldspar, dedicated to making of Waj amulets of green feldspar in order to ensure what? Regeneration of the deceased. In chapter 105, it is mentioned a green papyrus amulet, a green amulet belonging to the neck of Ra and given to those who dwell in the horizon, the Aket. All right, I'm not going to read everything to y'all, so let me skip on down. Um, oh, let me do read this one. The Wejat or Wajat, a lot of people pronounce that Ujat or Ujet I with the quail chick in front. It should be with a W, like my name, Wu Jiao. But the Wajet or Wajat, which is the uninjured eye of Heru, is depicted as a human eye and eyebrows as they would be seen looking at a person full faced. Usually it is the right eye shown as the Wajat, although the left is not uncommon. This is probably because of another myth that says that the sun and the moon were at the right, which is the sun, and the left, moon, and eyes of the sky god, and the sun is seen as more powerful, so the right. But anyway, let's keep it moving. Here's red, so she goes through red and explains everything. Let's get down to the Egyptian part. Let me go down, 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 down. Roman gladiators, blah, blah, blah. Biblical times, Adam means red, Dan means blood. Yeah, so she talks about the association of blood, red with the color blood and fire and all that good stuff, as you see right here. But let me get down to where she brings up Egypt. Man, I blew this thing up so big. It's like I'm scrolling for days. All right, here we go. This is interesting right here. I remember reading this. It says, however, now I skipped a whole bunch of things, right? Oh, let me come back here. Let's start here, right? Can y'all see this? Am I talking to myself? Let me make sure. Okay, it's late, y'all. You know it's late. All right. In Central Africa, Ndembu warriors rub themselves with red during celebrations. Since their culture sees the color red as a symbol of life, health, sick people were also painted with it. Like in most of the Central African cultures, the Ndembu see red as ambivalent, better than black, but not as good as white. Okay? So these people, they see red as ambivalent, better than black, but not as good as white. However, in other parts of Africa, red is a color of mourning, representing death. Because of the connection red bears with death in many parts of Africa, the Red Cross, this was interesting, the Red Cross organization, the Red Cross has changed its colors to green and white in several parts of the continent. I found that interesting because growing up, I always thought of the Red Cross as red and white. Like that's what I see in my mind when I think of the Red Cross. I'm thinking red and white, But they changed it to green, and you can understand why, right? Now we get to ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, red, which is the word dasher, was created by Egyptian artisans by using naturally oxidized iron and red ochre. It was the color of the desert and of the destructive god Set, who impersonated the evil. Now, making red was synonymous with killing someone. All right, we have to understand idioms and euphemisms or idioms within a culture. Like, for example, let me give you a side note of what an idiom is. Idiomatic expressions, right? In the ancient Egyptian language, we have a lot of idiomatic expressions with the word ib. For example, awut ib. Now, literally, taken literally, awut means to stretch out, to widen. It's a word that means to widen, to make something wide or stretch. Ib is translated many times as the heart. So awud ib means the stretching of the heart or the widening of the heart. Now, if we take that literally, nobody's going to get their heart stretched or widened literally. So, what does that actually mean? We know what it translates to, which is widen and heart. So, if I did the YouTube ship and pull up the Vigus dictionary or the TLA database dictionary, I'm going to look up awut, and I'm going to see that it means widen. And I'm going to look up ib and see that it means heart or even the mind. And then I'm gonna say, oh, see, and then you take it literally, but does it mean that? No. When it is actually used in context, which is the mother and father of meaning, we'll find that it means joy, happiness. That's what it means. And it's a figurative application because the stretching or widening of the heart is linked to happiness or joy. That's what it means. Joy. It doesn't mean literally widening the heart. But anyway, all right. So again, making red does not mean literally the color. It's saying it has a different, takes on a new meaning within its use. Making red is with killing someone. Now, salvation from evil is the subject of an ancient Egyptian charm, which says, quote, O Isis, deliver me from the hands of all bad, evil, red things. Were the things literally red? No, they were not. Literally, the color red, even though this is a color term, but red is being associated with what? Evil and bad. To go on, red was a powerful color symbolizing two extremes, life and victory, as well as anger and fire. Now, I'm not going to read all of this to you, so I'm gonna spare you all the boringness, but I'm just touching on a few things. I'm suggesting you all get this paper. This is one of my suggestions. And I'm gonna keep on giving suggestions because listen, I have like over 10 gigs. I don't even know, man. Even more than that. I don't even know. I have a 200 gig external a drive with buku gugobs of resources, some of which I even forgot that I have. So you all hit me up. If y'all looking for something, hit me up first. And I don't mind sharing. I'm not selfish. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna create on Sabre University. We're gonna have a digital library. All right, y'all heard it. Y'all heard it from me first. We're gonna have a digital library where people can come on board to Sabre University and benefit from the digital library. I'm gonna start uploading a whole lot of stuff. All right. Anyway, I'm not gonna read it to you. But now here's what's interesting on the life and victory aspect versus the anger and fire aspect. When it comes to red, I want y'all to notice, if y'all can remember, Set or Satuk. Satuk is associated with the color red. He's associated with the desert, which is Desheret, by the way, having that color word in there, Desher, red. And now he's associated with anger and fire, which are negative attributes, and so this is more of a negative aspect, but life and victory is a more of a positive aspect. And so how Set associates with life and victory is because in one aspect of Set's functionality in the culture is he protects. And remember, um, um, well, let me just finish and say this. He protects Ra. When Ra travels in the underworld in his night boat, he's at the front of the boat defending Ra against Apep. And he's victorious every night, or every endeavor he's victorious because Ra keeps it moving. Okay? So I just want to kind of give y'all a tidbit. But let's go on down to here's white. And I'm going to skip that one because I'm going to get down to black. Let's get down to black. All right, here's black. Black. The color black represents opposing ideas, authority and humility. See, those opposing. Rebellion and conformity, opposing. Wealth and poverty, opposing. Black also signifies absence, modernity, power, elegance, professionalism, mystery, evil, traditionalism, and sorrow. Black also implies submission. Now this is not Egypt yet. This she starts off with each color with some general thoughts behind it. Priests wear black to signify submission to God. We see Catholic priests, they wear black, or whatever priest we see on TV a lot. In Western countries, black is the color of mourning. You go to a funeral here in the United States, most of the time people are wearing black. While in many African countries, white is the color worn during funerals. Now that's true for ancient Egypt as well. You see women dressed in white. In Japanese culture, black means experience as opposed to white, which symbolizes naivety, that you're naive. Okay, so check that out. In Japanese culture, black is experience, and white symbolize naivety. Thus, and this is true, because I used to be in martial arts and take karate way back when I was younger. Thus, the black belt is the mark of achievement and seniority in many martial arts, whereas the white belt is worn by beginners. And that is so true, because my first belt was white belt. I had no belt. I learned my routine, performed it, passed, got my white belt, then I got my yellow belt, then I got my green belt, then I got my purple belt, and then from purple belt I got brown belt, and then I got my black belt. Yep. I was a black belt taekwondo martial artist. How about that? Yeah, I bet you already know that about me. But listen, that was a long time ago. As a matter of fact, I studied under June Ree. June Ree personally tied on my belts. Boy, you couldn't tell me nothing back in those days, boy. Y'all probably don't know who June Ree is, but man, where I'm from, June Ree was the man, because he had commercials on TV, and his daughter and his son was in his commercial, and the commercial used to always end, "Nobody bother me either." That was the commercial. But anyway, all right. Listen, if y'all from the Maryland, D.C. area, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, but anyway, let's keep reading. Russian painter, blah, blah, blah. Let's get down to Egypt because I'm running out of time. I'm trying to get... All right, here we go. In ancient Egypt, black was created from carbon compounds such as soot, ground charcoal, or burnt animal bones. Black was a symbol of death and of the night. Osiris, the sovereign of the afterlife, was called the Black One. Okay? Kimi, or Kimu, one who is black, or the Black One. Alluding not only to his role in the underworld, but also to his resurrection after he was murdered. And if y'all want to check out further information, she has a citation there. One of the few real-life people to be deified, Queen Ahmos Nefertari, was the patroness of the necropolis. And she was usually portrayed with what? Black skin. And that's the picture I showed a few times over the past few days. The black images of the queen embody the concept of what? Let's so the black images of the queen embody what? The concept of regeneration as the fertile ancestress of the royal line of the 18th dynasty. And obviously, you got some citations there. Then she goes on to Enpu or Anubis, the god of embalming, which is shown as a black jackal or dog, even though jackals and dogs are typically brown. Now, there's scholars that argue that Enpu is not necessarily a jackal or a dog in that sense, but a wolf, a type of wolf. So I got to revisit that those arguments. But I kind of read through that in passing. But anyway, let's see what else did you say. Yeah, as black symbolized death, it was also a natural symbol of the underworld and resurrection. Hence, Usir. Now, this is what people gotta understand. Osiris or Usir is the embodiment of the Duat in some texts. Visually, now I'm gonna show y'all. I'm not gonna take time to pull it up and share my screen, but just check this out. And if somebody asks me to do it another time, I will. I'm just not gonna take the time to do it now. But if you look at the vignettes in the Book of the Cave, Book of the Caverns, these underworld texts, you're gonna see in one of them, and I forget which, but you're gonna see in one of them how Osiris or Usir is a figure appears to be hanging upside down, but he's coiled or curled in a circle, and he's called the Duat. So he becomes the underworld. Imi Duat, that which is in the Duat. And so it makes sense that he's called the black one, and how black is a figurative association with the underworld and resurrection, etc., etc. Now, unexpectedly, perhaps it could also be symbolic for fertility and even life. The association, and this is definitely scholarly orthodoxy, the association with life and fertility is likely due to the abundance provided by the dark black silt of the annually flooding Nile. The color of the silt became emblematic of Egypt itself, and the country was called the Black Land from early antiquity. All right, that is definitely typical scholarly orthodoxy there. On the other hand, black is associated with chaos and enemies. Did y'all know that? Well, she's making the assertion, at least. Black is associated with chaos and enemies. So the men to the south of Egypt, Nubians, were depicted by what? Black skin. Nevertheless, now she's implying that she's saying because the Nubians, let's do it in reverse, because the and I like to refer to it as the Nehisiu. I do not like using the word Nubians for reasons I've explained so many times. But the Nehisiu are depicted in black skin. She's implying that in those associations, black is representative of chaos and enemies. Nevertheless, the rest of the foreigners, as the people to the north and west of Egypt, were depicted by yellow skin, symbol of caution and danger. In the latter, blah, blah, blah. All right, so I'm going to end it right there. But again, let me go back to the top just so y'all can pick this up. This is Color in Ancient Egypt by Gracielo Gustoso Singer. All right, so pick that up. This is interesting too, that the Egyptian hieroglyph for color, which is Yun, it can be translated as being, character, disposition, nature, or external appearance. So keep that in mind when you see the word that people like to translate as skin only. The word iun is the word that can mean these other things as well. All right, just keep that in mind. All right, enough of that. I bet y'all rock some people to sleep on that. All right, so enough of that. Let me stop sharing that. Now what I was originally looking for, cause see I got sidetracked with that. I really wasn't even trying to find that. I mean, I wasn't trying to show you all that, but I'm gonna show you all this one. This is definitely a recommendation. This is John Bain's 1985 work, and I definitely recommend you get this. And mind you, if you're just joining me, peace to you. Appreciate you hanging out with me. You tuned in to the Brother Wujao, hanging out, chilling, Kemet and chill. Let's be real. A brief build. See, I'm gonna be a rapper, boy. I'm telling y'all, I'm on my way. I'm gonna get signed. I'm gonna put together a demo. Yep. Okay. Anyway, let me find my thing. Stop playing. Here we go. So this is John Bain's work, 1985 work. Let me get my cursor over there. Okay. Out of Oxford University, it's entitled "Color Terminology and Color Classification: Ancient Egyptian Color Terminology and Polychromy." All right. And here's a short of it. The ancient Egyptian language possesses four basic color terms. Painting uses 7 and later 9 polychrome colors. These sets correspond to stages 3A, 5, and 7 of the Berlin and K encoding sequence for language and support the theory of 11 basic perceptual color categories. Now let me shift over and let you know who he's talking about, what he's talking about. The book on the left is what he's referring to. This is Berlin and K. Brent Berlin and Paul K. So this book on the left, basic color terms, their universality and evolution, that's their theory. They come away with an evolutionary theory of color perception among human beings. And they showcase different cultures, and they walk through the evolution of color designations. And so every culture tends to start off with 3 or 4 color categories, primary color categories, and then they branch off with others as secondary. Anyway, that's what he's referring to when he says according to stages 3, 5, and 7 of Berlin and K's. Okay, the categories, to continue, the categories are probably available only through progressive differentiation. The use of color in pictorial representation fits an active rather than a responsive model for this expansion. The separation of color use and color terminology has significant cognitive implications. All right. Now, what does that mean in a nutshell? Like, obviously I'm not going to read y'all a bedtime story, read this whole thing to you, but I'm keeping the title on the page so you all can take a screenshot and go ahead and pick this up. But pick up all the works by John Baines, by the way, on these topics. But what that means is that different cultures conceive or perceive colors, and human beings, we tend to use colors as a ontological endeavor, which means we use colors to categorize things. Okay, we do not necessarily put these items in a category under a color term because the item looks like the color, but whatever our society say the color represents, and it branches from the literal color itself, items of that particular color, to expanded usage of the color term where it becomes figurative, and will also dump items in that same category, even though they don't look like the color itself, literally. Okay, so for example, in modern day times, we have the color term black, BLACK, right? We know that to be a color, we know that to be an adjective, and we describe things using it. We'll say the black top on the bottle, the black lamp, the black sink, and whatever, the black shirt. Okay, so we're using it literally. But in modern times, we also have many expansions of black that's not literal. So we say, my bank account is in the black, or my bank account is in the red. So we'll use color terms, or we'll say, hey, you're green, meaning that you're a beginner, you're new to this. You're green. Go sit go sit down somewhere. You're too green. You see what I'm saying? So we, like all of the human beings on the planet, we perceive colors with our physical eyes, and we have this physiological detection or perception of colors, and we name them something, but then we use that to categorize things. So now, if I say my bank account is in the black, I'm not using black literally. My bank account is not the color black, but I'm using black as a categorical feature in our society. So, and it carries a meaning. And I believe if your bank account is in the black, you're doing good. And if it's in the red, that means you're in debt. You owe something, or whatever the case is. So, but in that case, red is not literally the color red. It means that you owe some money. you are in debt. So red becomes associated with debt. Okay, which is something negative. You don't want to be in debt. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be in debt. You know what I'm saying? We are trying to get out of debt. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, all right, enough of that. That's enough I'm gonna share for tonight. I have many more, and so what I'm gonna try to do every live stream I'm on, I'm gonna make some recommendations. I'm gonna share some titles, share some authors, and everything, because I am an avid advocator, or an avid advocator of education. I am that nerd guy. I am that boring guy. I am that guy that loves the classroom environment. I'm the guy that likes to teach and to educate. I'm that guy who loves the science of pedagogy and andragogy. While being in love with that and doing those things, I also like to have fun. I also like to lighten the load up and things like that. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. But my push, my advocacy is for us to step our game up and get serious with our education. And what I always say, I guess you could say it's my motto now at this point, is that whenever us having fun and entertaining ourselves start to compromise our progress in growing in knowledge and prospering and so on, and things like that, we better check ourselves. I'm not against having fun. I'm not against all the entertainment and whatnot. But when it starts to encroach on our progress, that's when we gotta change things up a bit. All right. So I just want to make that clear for those who don't know me, and they may think that I'm serious, I'm too serious or whatnot. But a lot of people don't ever say that. Like I get a lot of feedback from these live streams through the website and through inbox, because I'm on Facebook under the same name, y'all. And although I don't post nearly as much as I used to on Facebook, my inbox be popping. My Facebook Messenger is be on and popping. You know, even Google, what is it? Google Message, because my email is the same thing too. Wajao@gmail.com. So shoot me an email, hook me up, look me up on Facebook or whatever, and I get hit up all the time, and and I really appreciate the interaction. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciate the interaction, and I like to stay engaged so I can know, okay, what to do next. Like if I'm over, if I may not be clear to people, or people thank me for simplification and understanding and stuff like that. But most people know how I get down. Like I have fun as well, witty fun and stuff. So if this your thing, then hey man, come hang out with me more often. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like the videos, even old videos. Go through our archive. Even if you don't have time to watch them, like them. Just click on them, thumb up those bad boys. It's never too late. It's never too late. It's free. It just takes a click of a button of the mouse. Click, 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 click. Just go through our videos. Click. I don't even care if you didn't watch it. Just click it. Just like the title. Just look at the title. Be like, oh, I like that. Click. You don't have to watch the whole thing. 'Cause we got some 4 hour, 6 hour videos. I know you're not gonna watch the whole thing. But like those things. Anyway, I'm gonna shut my mouth and let me stop sharing that. Emmy Cat, you got any last thing? Emmy, boy, listen, y'all. I gotta say this. Emmy Cat has patience of steel. You see how she was just sitting there. I'm doing all the talking, MC Ironlung, and everything, and she's still right here, just sitting there. You know what I'm saying? So, Emmy Cat, you can close out. So I have said everything I need to say. Peace to y'all. Have a good night. Hope you start your week um, off on a blast. And I'm about to turn in. So I got a busy week, so you may not see me until the weekend.
Yeah, so maybe no, I definitely didn't want to start interrupting. I know that's been going on. That kind of stuff give me like high blood pressure at a young age. So, that's not cool, when people be over talking each other and trying to get the point. But I don't have much to say. The only thing that I just want to say is just probably just make a quick summary of the beautiful stuff that you presented in the beginning, so that people don't forget. So if you tuned in later, at the beginning of the show, Wuja was talking about some of the issues that we see with discussions, and I just want to go over them real quick, and then we'll just shut off. Um, okay, let me just make sure that I can be heard properly. So, okay, so the first thing that I think Wuja was talking about is the issue with appeal to authority. I've shared the video that Wuja did, is from the archive, so you'll see that appeal to authority versus deference to authority. So what we don't want to do is just to appeal to authority for the sake of, and that we don't have any issues with people deferring to authority because nobody's an expert on everything, in that sense. But remember that regardless of whatever it is that you when you mention a source of coming from an expert, is what is expected for you from you is not just mentioning or sourcing up. And this is one of the issues we've had with the that phrase that that we've had a lot, like the sentence like source up or shut up. That in itself is lacking because anybody can source up. Sourcing up does not mean that that's the end of your job. So being able to provide references is not enough. If you've been to college, you can't be writing papers and just be referencing. When you reference stuff, you'll actually have to say why the person that you're referencing is right or why the person that you're referencing is wrong. So in that case, what is actually shows is have you attained enough skills to be able to discern when when an expert is right or when an expert is wrong. So this is what is required from people who usually will be on the panel educating people or trying to share information with people. As listeners, we have to start demanding a little bit more than just being told something. When you tell us this, can you really explain to us, explain to me as a like a 6 year, like I'm 6 years old, explain to me like I'm 12 years old, so I can actually know that you, who's actually put yourself in the position to explain something to me, the listener or the viewer, actually understands what you're explaining. Otherwise, just give me the source and I will go and read it on my own free time. That is what we need to start demanding, because the issue that arises with either appealing to authority, appeal, just talking about the consensus, because everybody knows what the consensus is. When you say these things, what is actually showing is that you lack a deeper understanding of the consensus. You lack a deeper understanding of the experts, what they're saying. All you can do is actually just parrot what the consensus is saying. All you can do is just parrot what the references are saying. But you, as a person who's put yourself in that position, do not truly, truly understand what you're saying, because otherwise you'll be able to break down what you're saying. When you see Wujao explain things, and obviously, this is one of the channels where questions are always, we welcome questions, and questions are always asked a lot. You will see Wujao simplify stuff. You will see Wujao explain things, and not just say this is what this is what the Egyptology say, or this is what the papers say. This is what you will see Ujao go into text. You will see Ujao mention different primary. Sometimes you might actually think that Ujao is not giving sources, but because if you're not listening and you see Ujao actually telling you what text to go to and what you might actually need to watch out for and things like that, and explain things deeper. When you've taken his classes, you understand that this is an example of somebody who understands the text, and not just rely on the consensus or rely on the translations, but actually can actually go behind the text himself and explain what is happening, which is basically understanding the mind view of the people that, or the culture that you're trying to study. So we have to understand what the ancient Egyptians what they meant. So you're going behind the just the text, because you don't just stop at the translations. When you see somebody like Assad, do his presentations and teach and present stuff, you will see him not just going over what something is, but actually break it down. I'm only saying this to show you that there's a difference between groups of people who literally understand what it is that they've taken time to study. The way they break it down, you will actually see that difference. And I just hope that the listeners or viewers can actually see a difference between those scholars who understand, or people who truly understand the stuff that they study, and the way that they break them down, as opposed to people who just rely on translations as they come in English, or translations as they come in German, translations as they come in Danish, and stop there. Or people who just understand what the consensus is. So to say that those are the things that were discussed, and I just wanted people to just leave with understanding that, and understanding that it is high time that we actually start as listeners demanding a little bit more better from people who actually want us to give them our time, or when they're explaining stuff to us. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, yeah, you were silent, but you had a lot to say at the end. All right, so with that, I'm gonna say, listen, I appreciate everybody tuning in, and y'all have a great week. Stay safe out there, and I'll see y'all next time. Hope you learned something, and make some recommendations. What do you want to talk about? I'm trying to move past the whole zombie retarded conversation about whether the Egyptians are black or not, and to what extent. I'm tired of people using excuses of trying to find ways to to inject our modern social constructs in ancient times, be it indirectly or directly, or trying to do it in a slick way, pretending not to be doing it, all that kind of stuff. Like, when we're gonna get down to the genius of the actual culture itself, right? And that's what I'm about, and that's what I get into in an actual more controlled environment, educational environment. On the YouTube streets, we can have fun, we could chill, we could do Q&As and do a few presentations here and there. And that's what we're gonna keep doing. But if you really want to get into it and get your feet wet, dive right on in a little bit more, definitely go to Sabre University. We're going to be building that up, or hit me up directly, myself or MCAT, or anybody that you see as a regular on the panel and things like that. Just do it. But with that, I'm going to say, Shalom Hotep. See y'all next time.
Plato said that when you go to Kemet school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up. And you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. Studies. We must know Medew Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some Hieroglyphic too. We need to know Medew Netcher.